now we can start a session. In advance, thank you very much for your attention, and you just join our session for this one. Oh, I just interrupted by Leila's coming. Yes, and floor is yours. Thank you, Daniel.
It's gonna be a weird session. I swear to God. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zahra. Thank you so much, and everyone else for having me today and dedicating your lovely evening to this tiny little presentation of mine, which is, well, basically on a very lesser known and infamous genre called the essay in the history of, let's say, English literature so far, for now. I don't want to talk about European literature, but yeah, let's just stick to our guns because English is probably our strongest suit here. So, speaking about the essay, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be the sole speaker here. I don't want to take up this, assume the habit of a little preacher tonight. So I'm not going to be, I'm going to have mercy on your ears, as one of my professors used to say. So I'm going to have to make it a little bit of an interactive session so that everyone has the same opportunity to maybe issue their opinions and comments here tonight. Just for the head start, I mean, a little warm up here. Has anyone ever heard the, let's say, the name essay or any ideas about what it looks like? I don't know what its properties could be and how it is represented in this this category. Let's say. I would like to hear some, a few commentaries about this if anyone is volunteering. If not, I'm going to have to continue. But please do talk. Please do talk. Don't make me feel alone.
Sir, I think that the founder of this style of writing was Montaigne, one of the most famous philosophers in French history and culture.
Exactly. And what else do you know about it, Alireza? By the way, good to see you here, buddy.
Thank you so much, sir. Glad to have me here.
Good.
I think in literature, maybe Virginia Woolf remained this kind of style.
She was one of the modern pioneers. She was one of the modern pioneers of this genre in English literature. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and also I think that maybe Marius Vargas Llosa also have this kind of style in his work.
Yeah, definitely Jorge Luis Borges and also Robert Louis Stevenson, the author of Mr. That Jekyll and Hyde fiction. I haven't read the story, but yeah, Robert Louis Stevenson. Treasure Island as well. He was also, he had a strong hand in this category. Basically speaking, thank you so much, Alireza. Basically speaking, the scholars were quite conservative about putting the essay in an ironclad definition. Like they were never fanciful of ascribing anything ironclad that would just limit the scope and range of essay. Because you might know the essay genre is somehow renowned for its use of its use of compact language, its use of, I don't know, the incorporation of, let's say, intertextualities. And by intertextualities, I mean they somehow try to borrow and just, add some further text, the works of other authors as well. So probably they're not limited to a tiny little scope, and the let's say there is a huge array of let's say categories to which they can cling. So Zahra, could we please move to the next slide? or anyone else in charge? Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, the title that came to my mind that, somehow immediately bumped into my head was just a crestfallen genre, a type of genre. Like, I'm using genre. I mean, they are using genre because they had no other option and choice. Although it's against that systematic definition of this discourse. So first of all, I'm going to start with a little bit of systematic definition of it, just to have a brief introduction about this essay, its origins, the genesis, when it flourished, and who were let's say, the chief pioneers of this category. And then we're going to move on to a little bit of more sophisticated issues regarding the essay. So what is it? Like I said, it's an analytical, interpretative, or critical literary composition, usually much shorter and less systematic. You see, is less systematic and for dissertation. So make no mistake about it. Some people might confuse two essays. Like, one of them is the academic, that dull, boring, let's say monotonous way of writing things that come up to that just bump into our brains when we're asked to do some kind of assignment at school, university, or any other academic affiliation. The second type of essay, which I adore, which I personally adore, like, it's just another mesmerizing way of just dealing with literature. Some, becoming acquainted with lots of let's say, social matters, political matters as well, and the issues alike. So, and less systematic and formal than a dissertation or thesis, and usually dealing with its subject from a theoretically more insular, often personal point of view. So, like, even the essayist is not bound. Like, he is not bound to a school of thought. He might be near some thought, I don't know, like Montaigne, as my dear friend Ali Reza mentioned. He might be, ushering and offering some new discourse on a very novel topic in his own fashion, but usually, in the casual essayist is never bound to those, let's say, prosaic definitions and isms. To simply put it, they're not bound to all those isms that some of the scholars might be keen to follow. And most of the time, their vogue of addressing, of, let's say, their way of exposition takes on a whole personal, subjective point of view, as we just read in this in this section. I'm sorry, I lost this PowerPoint thing here. I don't know where it went, but that's all right. So, well, the beginning of it was the 17th century, and some of the topics and some of the public concerns of that time, which were somehow flourishing in the eyes of public, were just the social manners, cultivation of politeness, and the training of unaccomplished gentlemen. Well, it became the recurrent theme of many essays. So, like I said, the essay and the job, let's say, the calling of the essayist is not just to touch upon dull, tedious matters that everyone else is already, acquainted with. But what further eulogizes the role of the essayist in this English, or let's say in this the category of literature, is that he has an alarmed way of observation. His observation is what stands out among the rest of his maybe counterparts, or the ones who are solely concentrated on matters of criticism or matters of philosophy. He has a very observant eye for the social phenomenon that keeps that keep happening around him, either on a social scale, on a political dimension, or some other, let's say, enterprises. It was first explored, as I have read, as I have, if my recollection serves me well, first explored by the Italian Baldassare Castiglione in his 1528 book, The Book of Courtier. So, like I said, keener political awareness in the 18th century. Again, as we moved on, all these matters were just gaining more interest and sincerity regarding their, let's say, prevalence in an English society or maybe a European society as well. The Age of Enlightenment. So here's the key point. The Age of Enlightenment made the essay an all-important, let's say, all-encompassing vehicle for criticism of society and religion. So like I said, it's open. What makes essay so welcoming, in my opinion, so welcoming and inviting for some of the students who might be interested in this enterprise is the fact that it's always open to a multiplicity of ideas. Like I said, you may find affinities between this essay and the academic essay, but believe me, this type of essay, I swear to God, if I held any chair, if I held any seat at one of the high-ranking, let's say, world of academia, I don't know what, but I would definitely revive this genre, no matter what. I would definitely revive this genre. Believe me. So I think I mentioned some of the features regarding this discourse. I mean, it's a better way to use discourse rather than genre. It's brevity, welcoming. It's brief. The brevity, flexibility, and potential for ambiguity and illusion. And later on, gradually, it turned out a very, let's say, dominant political reformist tool in a political discourse, if we want to. It also, here's the funny thing, it also became the favorite tool of the traditionalists, like Burke and the Romantic poet Coleridge. Because these people were also inherently infatuated with short, provocative essays as the most potent means of educating the masses. Like it might be, some people might even turn a blind eye to this business of essay writing. But I remember, and even the people here who have had courses with Tabriz University professors can also recall this quite vividly, that some of the professors used to demarcate, and by that I mean, put specific value on different genres of fiction. And they somehow prioritize poetry. They prioritized poetry as one of the, or maybe probably the most difficult genre anyone could, have a hand in. And people who failed to write poetry, they somehow resorted to the business of short story writing. And this let's say, this pattern kept going on and repeating itself. So finally, maybe we can call it the weakest academicians or the weakest scholars found no better home than novels, because why? Because it provided a lot of space for them to maneuver. It was a, let's say, a very spacious platform for furthering their horizon of ideas, compared to poetry, which, you got to do. There is this technique in French literature, le mot juste, if I'm not mistaken, to do more with the less. And this is actually one of the, recurring techniques some poets and and later on some of the famous short story writers employed in their business. Like, and the essay somehow does not fall short of this categorization. Let's say the essay is usually known to let's say occupy at maximum 5 pages in a volume. In a very huge volume. So 5 pages to 7 pages maximum. And here is the difficulty of the task. And the essayist has to, let's say, overcome in trying to provide something compact, brief, analytical, interpretative. That's why I can also consider essay on the same par regarding the difficulty and the vicissitudes an essayist might encounter in his business to the difficulties and complications a short story writer or poet might encounter in his lifetime or in his career. So, Zara, can we move to the next slide, please? I am so sorry if I am talking too fast. Don't please regard me as a verbose person. I don't usually talk this much, but since we have a little time restraint, I believe I have to double up the speed. So, like we highlighted this matter that it became the favorite tool of traditionalists like Burke and Coleridge. Look to short, provocative essays as the most potent means of educating the masses. So here's also another fact. These people knew that the common sense was too tired for absorbing huge amounts of information on, let's say, thousands and dozens of pages. So, and the common people, and here it is referred to as the masses. The masses were so lame and lazy to just pick up their books, peruse 300 pages just to learn about another typical topic that was just somehow pervasive in their own era. So the reason they focus on this literary genre as a very intuitive and insightful one was because it fulfilled its potential. It somehow fulfilled its potential as an educating factor. Like imagine it, and I remember this term that Theodore Adorno, if I'm not mistaken, Theodore Adorno was was so fond of using. He uses the term the negative knowledge. He uses the term negative knowledge when he wants to talk about a very disturbing factor that you're just somehow pricking into the heart of a common, typical way of traditional or conventional, let's say, misconceptions, if I'm not mistaken. So here, the role of essay in that society was quite, it was not left unheeded, but people like Coleridge wished that it was somehow put on the pedestal for further recognition. And the soul, one of the reasons, I'm not going to say the soul because it would be too reductionist. One of the reasons that it served was the problem of education. On a smaller space, taken shorter time than a usual novel or another pamphlet of cultivating the manners. So the essay did it quite perfectly. It was so adequate. It was so well, there is this upright correlation between the essayist and the essay. So there's this let's say phrase I have used at the end of this powerful PowerPoint file that goes like a bad essay. It goes like a bad essay is as conformist as a bad dissertation. Like the essay never tries to conform. It never tries to conform. But its job is to enlighten. Its job is to give you insight. And well, let's go further on and just let's see what else we have to offer here. So some other examples of the essay and essays of Paul Elmer's Shelburne essays, and these could be some points of reference for the ones who might later on be interested in this business of essays. It's just Paul Elmer's Shelburne essays. T.S. Eliot, which I'm sure 90% of you people know this guy. He used to be one of the many nightmares we English students had to tackle during our MA and BA years, even PhD sometimes. T.S. Eliot's After Strange Gods and Notes Towards the Definition of Culture. And, well, this very probably collection of essays, it attempted to reinterpret and redefine culture. Like I said, again, another cultural propensity to this genre, the essay. And well, there might be different approaches. There might be different approaches regarding essay. In some countries, and let's say we're just breaking away from the restricting English essay here. Not a collection, but Wolf's Street Haunting is also quite a pleasure to read. All right, thank you so much, Arsalan. Thank you so much. In some countries, it became the chosen vehicle of literary and social criticism. Like I said, now it is finding more literary and critical affinities to it. So it has not forsaken the previous tenets it used to held up high. It used to let's say endorse for itself. But it is just absorbing new dimensions to it. Now they have another. They're now the essayists of the modern era are just more concerned with matters of literature and social, and at the same time literary criticism. As you know, the times progressed, and as we moved into a whole new, different, emerging genre, novel, short story, poetry, and another emerging philosophical schools, let's say. And in others, so in some countries, it became the chosen field of literary and social criticism. But in others, it was rendered semi-political, earnestly nationalistic, and often polemical, playful, or bitter. Again, it's just reiteration of the fact that they were also quite engaged in, let's say, discourses of politics or of nationalism, jingoism, let's say, chauvinism. Yeah, I think I mentioned these names in the beginning of our session. Robert Louis Stevenson, Willa Cather, Virginia Woolf, Edmund Wilson. They were also jingoism. No, it's not jingoism. Jingoism, let's say, jingoism. Maybe you've misheard me, but yeah, that was quite funny. Jingoism, yeah. Can we just move to the next slide, please? Thank you so much. Can anyone just please, because I'm not in control of the slides here, someone else has to do it for me because of the wonderful strength and steadfastness of our national internet. You see, half of my hair is gone because of the anxiety over internet. Anyone? All right, let me use my own. All right. So, since I do not like I said, I don't want to be the sole speaker here. Any questions so far? Like, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to talk here, people. Please help me out in this. Thank you so much. How you doing? Thank you. But I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that type of question. But yeah, that was a rhetorical question. Thank you so much. Like anyone? You're so welcome to ask. All right. Sounds like everyone is in a, let's say, lethargic state now. Former slides, I just highlighted some of the key features that the essay might be able to promulgate in its, let's say, business. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Although I have nothing more to offer, it's just like, common knowledge. There's nothing to it, just for matters of enlightenment. So we said that it is not an ironclad definition it is not an ironclad definition, and it is so flexible that it can welcome any type of, let's say, epistemological body of knowledge, to use a Foucauldian, let's say, parlance. Yes, episteme, that is the body of knowledge that some people, not some people, but is generally out there waiting to be grasped, and also in the process of making as well. So it has a multitude of forms, manners, and scarcely, like, here's again, this might be interesting to you, and scarcely any rules or regulations. But it is so defiant. It's just like one of those bully genres, like it's a type of genre that will call into question the integrity and the systematic organization of other genres. Like, come on, there are so many schools of thought. There are so many isms, like I said, and some of them follow definite set of regulations. Like in Romantic era, you got to be subjective. You got to talk about the subject, the powers of imagination and stuff. Victorians are just talking about manner. It's so dull, stultifying discourse, but again, too much description. I don't know. The existential school of thought is also, let's say, enamored. It's so saturated with topics of existential thought and blah, blah, blah. But again, the essay, you can use the adjective eclectic for the essay. The essay will never let you down. All right, and there are thousands of essays, and I will recommend a good volume which holds about 60 to 70 essays in it. The word is eclectic. Like, you delve into the world of essays, and they literally, let's say, have an opinion of everything. They're not afraid. These people, the essayists, are like they're nothing short of a philosopher, but not just that regular philosopher who uses tongue-twisting, mind-boggling words just to make a simple fact simpler. But again, he works vice versa. His let's say techniques and modes of discourse will just betray him at some point. And the job of philosophy, the whole task of philosophy, I'm not a philosopher, but I've had some, let's say, tangible contact with this school of thought as well, this whole philosophical concepts. And Ali Reza, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong. The task of philosophy is to make things simpler. It is to make things, those torturous, complex ideas, more, let's say, understandable, to allow us to have this thorough comprehension regarding some of the topics that they have endorsed over the time, or about humanity, about anything, mostly about the human, let's say, history and stuff. And yeah, on the contrary, the essayist's job is to work as a social philosopher. And again, I like this phrase as well. The chief interest is not of torpid storytelling. And by the way, the one thing you need to know about the essay, in parentheses, is that this piece of prose does not devote itself to a narrative. Like, you cannot approach this essay. Some might say, well, you cannot is actually an emphatic and let's say, bold statement, but I hereby say that yes, it is not something, it's not some type of a prose that might be devoted to a narrative. So it has a little narrative, and by this flexibility, this is what I mean. There is this technique in literature, and I'm sure you all know it, this starting something from the middle, like in medias res, if I'm not mispronouncing it. Like, you start a story, you start a narrative in the middle of something else. And this is also considered to be somehow semi-modern technique in the world of literature and any other discourse alike. So it does not necessarily and essentially devote itself to a narrative. Like, it doesn't follow this plot that we basically see in the heart of literature, in the canonical works of, let's say, literature. It's again, the flexibility of it, the flexibility of this genre allows for more maneuvering, allows for more ebb and flow in it. Like, you've got a lot of ups and downs, not regarding the genre, but regarding the human experience that is, let's say, juxtaposed between the lines. And its chief interest, as I told you, is not of that torpid storytelling, but is that of a social philosopher. And in some cases, I would like to use the word social phenomenologist, a critic, an annotator. So if you remember, we talked about how keen of an eye they have, how observant they just tend to be. All these essays, I mean, I'm not gonna go with this, holistic, but no, yeah, all of these essayists, because mostly the prominent ones, they have a keen eye. They have this, let's say, unquenchable thirst about their environment. And they usually point out stuff. They usually address the issues that have gone unheeded by the social, by, let's say, most of the classes in a society. And those could be, why do I like to call him a social phenomenologist? Because in this, let's say, school of phenomenology, and those who are interested in phenomenology can vouch for this, you not only talk about, the phenomenon generally on a general scale, but you also talk about the ordinary, this daily attitude that people have towards those phenomena. And the thing is, we are so blind. Sometimes we people are so blind about our environment, about our whereabouts, that we don't care what happens. Like, we take everything for granted. But on the contrarily, these essayists have this fortified, this let's say, this acumen, that's the word I was looking for, this acumen to address these issues that have gone unbeknownst, that have remained unknown, and they have literally ossified themselves into dull, acceptable fabric of our social lives. For example, talk about sleeping. How many people here think about sleeping? How many of you take time brooding, reflecting on traveling? How do you see the matters of traveling? How do you talk about sleep? How do you talk about love? I know there are thousands of pamphlets, both esoteric and common, regarding the pains and passions of love. But how many have actually taken their time, laser focused, on these issues? Probably not everyone, but these social phenomenologists or social philosophers, these are the people that provide you with new horizons of understanding, of new horizons of comprehension. And that way, your senses are alarmed, your whole intuition is alarmed, and your let's say, your stale way of thinking about these issues would be renewed. There is a renaissance of ideas that keeps happening every time you touch upon a new and novel issue among the world of essays. Whew, I'm running out of breath, boy. So the thing is, I wanted to before we started the session, and I want it to be part of the syllabus here today, to bring multiple examples of essays, or at least an excerpt of some of the let's say eminent essays ever written in this category. But I have just limited myself to some names, to a few names and a few characteristics each of these authors had to let's say offer. So Alireza mentioned the name Montaigne. He was quite right. But in the English-speaking universe, I also have a prominent name as well. Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon. So let's talk about the style quite fast. His style was laconic, compact, the kinship between the word ahan. And here's the thing. He kind of draws a parallel. This guy, Francis Bacon, also draws a line, a parallel between the closeness of, let's say, the semantic affinity of two words, essay and assay, like with A. One of them starts with the initial E, and the other starts with the initial A. So here's what he has to offer. Let's say it somehow resembles the job of a mineralogist. A mineralogist who goes, he's someone who just digs deeper, deals with stone, carves out, washes, pierces through the stones just to get some, minerals out of there, some probably precious ones, gems or stuff. I'm not an expert, but that is the essay, to make an effort. And that's as hard as the job of a mineralogist. So he says the job of a mineralogist, for the handful of carefully washed words which come out in one of Bacon's essays, puts one in mind of the prospector. Like again, we are here along with the essays. We're working as the prospector, sluicing away the grit, like you're just carving deep down into it, until a few clear specks of gold are left in the bottom of his pan. That's how meticulous, that's how scrupulous the job of an essayist is. Again, Bacon was so fond of topics of social custom or behavior, so that is why he reduced all of these things to an aphoristic brevity. And aphorisms is just one of the inevitable parts of the essay, like maxims, apothegms, like short, wise, words of wisdom, let's say. And also he has let's say this, he has this turn, he has this dexterity at giving you not an unsettling, I don't want to use the word unsettling, but give you a refreshing outlook on some of the images. So he is so apt in transfiguring a common image and giving you a whole new perspective on that image. Like he has this discursive Elizabethan power, like this is good, a discursive Elizabethan power, so in which he likens, here's one of the examples, he likens ill-natured men to thorn or briar because they cannot do other. Again, powers of his, discursive dexterity. And also, as we gradually moved on in those years, another minor genre, or let's say practice, came into being. Just like I said, just like their perpetual concentration on matters of social life, on those phenomena. This practice, because it's far shorter than a genre, this practice was called the character. In the 17th century, it was called the character. Like in the dramatic universe, in this dramatic parlance, when everyone overacts, like that they just play the same role over and over again. When they play the same role over and over again, we call them that. These actors are actually playing a type character or a typical character, to be precise. And this is the same character here that was emerging in that era, and it included some, let's say, some typical characters. It induced some of the most, and let's say it somehow maneuvered on some of these typical characters, like the poet, the yeoman, the undergraduate, the character of the undergraduate, especially in let's say in campus novels, the poet character again, the yeoman character, and consequently it followed some major figures like Addison and Goldsmith as well. So speaking of the periods, a few points on the 18th century essay will, let's say, bode quite, let's say, fruitful to the audience and also myself. Quite like the literature shaped in this era, that is the complex shape of a Shakespearean play with its alternating intimate and crowd scenes, which was also prescribed by the Elizabethan, the architecture of Elizabethan stage. The essay was conformed. However, contrary to the nature of the essay, it somehow conformed to the mores of its time, to the fashion of its time. How? Through the press. Through the press. Many journals, magazines, other dailies, quarterlies, and stuff. So in a similar vein, the length and tone of the spate, this diffusion of essays, were determined by the swift contemporary development of the press. Like, it was the press that somehow stipulated that, well, if you're an essayist, you're going to do it on my terms somehow. You're going to do it on my terms. So when I tell you to write no more than 5 pages, you have to stick with the rules. You have to stick to what I'm offering you. Otherwise, I'm sorry. And also, well, by the time there were more than 60 daily papers by the end of the century, the 18th century, most of which supplemented the news with articles, literature, manners, or politics. And again, since it was flourishing in a very malleable and open-ended, might be a good choice, an open-ended fashion, a new scope of essay also came to existence, whose pioneers were, again, Addison and Richard Steele, Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. So they had this courage, they had this temerity to, and actually the liberty to air any topic with public interest. I'm not going to bother you. All right. I think we're going to have a little problem given the time of our presentation. So I have to skip this session, which is addressing the key features in some of the major essays of the time. And let's move on to a more engaging topic than the key features. The key features that are exclusive to those, let's say, authors and essayists. So throughout the manifold variety of English essays, there runs, in form or another, a sense of moral purpose. Like, so far we talked about its associations, what we need to consider when we're talking about the essay, how the essayist, let's say, how the essayist commands his enterprise, how the essayist comes up with those surplus of ideas, and how he actually manages to pervade, let's say, make his ideas pervade and circulate among a category of individuals from different walks of life. So another remaining key point here in this fashion is its edifying factor. Like most of the time, the essay makes let's say, ceaseless endeavors to try to edify you. And by edify, I mean some kind of a correction about moral rectitude, about this moral rectitude that people are trying to talk. Like, it is trying to endorse the highways and byways of a cultivated society, the merits and demerits of an elevated spirit, an elevated character. Like, he's addressing the propriety and the appropriate ways of conduct, and also warns against the evils of misconduct in a Victorian, let's say, or whatever society they are living in. So, throughout the manifold variety of English essays, there runs in form, or in another case, a sense of moral purpose and a zeal to edify and clarify our thoughts. You might ask how. So here's how. Sometimes that purpose, this edifying, enlightening purpose, is boldly revealed, like there is no intermediary thoughts or extension to the essay. He goes right straight to the point. And sometimes it is camouflaged. This idea, this moral brevity, is camouflaged with humor or irony. So he is using the tropes of language. He's using this tropes of discourse. Any means, any vehicle that he can gather to address that let's say, pulsing incorrection that is in the society, or lies anywhere else. And after all, this essay should be, in my opinion, and in the words of many a scholar, it should be given the status of a serious mode of literature, to cut to the chase. And it is serious, because it is not some kind of a lighthearted scripture that you might find on a daily magazine or stuff. However, this genre is nowadays gone out of fashion, and I am so willing that the Academy, anyone who is in control, do something about it. Like, even in my let's say, academic years in Tabriz University, I was always, let's say, dismayed. The dismal idea that kept scuttling in my brain left and right. Like, this genre was always on the periphery of literature. Like, it never got the chance. It never got the chance to make its way to the top of literary discourse. So that is also my concern for this. Like, why have we forsaken such a prestigious genre? I mean, the question is, are we not literature students? Yes, and this problem is a deep-seated one in the world of academia. Like, we have MA students here, we have BA students here among us. They had research courses, right? They had also research courses in the MA years, but that research was totally quantitative. It had nothing to do with us. And again, we were supposed to pass it one way or another because there were consequences, you know. And about this essay form, about this form, like, we are English students, for heaven's sake. Like, if you wanna measure me, if there is some kind of measuring criteria, let's bring it back. Let's do something about it. And the main difference is our faculties of writing. First of all, we are never taught to write properly in a good fashion. Everyone that I know is having difficulties, is having a hard time trying to write something in English, including myself. Now, here's the thing. Our powers of writing are so systematically inclined that we cannot even write any creative thing. Like, I cannot address any grand scale issue in my society or in anything, or even in my own field of interest, using that genre, because we are so restricted, because we're not asked to do so, because it is a heresy. This genre is considered heresy now in universities and anywhere else who is somehow interested in matters of literary criticism and discourse. So all I'm saying is that, and this is like an academic critique that a poor, miserable student like me is trying to make here. I believe it should be back. I believe it should come to prominence again. Like, I am sure, even the audience, even the professors, my advisors, will be sick to death reading anything systematic in the format of a dissertation with, I don't know, 250 points of reference, bibliography, or like I said, the references we put back there. And the discourse in that piece of fiction, that piece of writing is quite boring. Simply put, it's boring. Like, come on. I wasn't built for this. I know there's this department of research. I mean, we should know the ways of research, the research methodology and stuff, but this is on the same par. And even more than that, giving the topics of research, this is a more intimate way of researching, of going deep into the heart of social classes, of social phenomenon. And again, no one listens to it. So I am somehow approaching the end of this discussion. I am only a few points left, but I don't want to grate your wonderful powers of hearing with my not so harmonious voice here. So I was just reading this article. I dug a little deeper a few days ago, and hopefully I found this. I don't want to call it it's also an essay. It is an essay by Theodor Adorno, one of my favorite figures of criticism that we used to cover. And the title is The Form of Essay. So I'm just gonna quickly skim over a few points that I extracted for you guys, and which I found worthy of notice here. And I wish you guys had the PowerPoint slides, apparent to you, but I think there's something wrong with the screen or with the screen sharing, this online thing. But all right, I'm gonna read some of them for you. I'm gonna read a few for you, and I will probably focus a few seconds on some of them. So in Germany, because he was also of a German breed, this Adorno guy. In Germany, the essay arose resistance because it evokes, arouses resistance, because it evokes intellectual freedom. Like I said, this dissident, this defiant attitude of the essay writing, and even here, in a very strict community, in a rigid fabric like Germany, this essay thing arouses resistance because it evokes intellectual freedom. Like, it leaves you room for touching upon different topics, not just a closed, not just, it's not requiring any closure. So the essay, however, again, we touched upon this matter, the essay, however, does not let its domain, its range of topics, again, its range of communication be prescribed for it. Like, you're not going to go out there and say, hey, and provide a systematic definition for the word essay. The essay should be written double-spaced, like we do in university. It should be written double-spaced. You should not use the word I there. It should not be subjective. It must use a plural, blah, blah, blah. It must follow the same guidelines as we have published on a faculty website or stuff. No, it does not let its domain be prescribed for it. So literally, you can add anything you want. Not anything, and by anything I mean those topics that are worthy, that are of a purpose, they serve a glorious higher purpose for the audience to catch upon. Again, instead of accomplishing something scientifically, or creating something, its efforts reflect the leisure, and I'm quoting all of these, its efforts reflect the leisure of a childlike person who has no doubts about taking his inspiration from what others have done before him. Again, you're talking about the ease and leisure of this esoteric genre. It is forcibly separated from the discipline of academic unfreedom, and Theodore Adorno's term here is unfreedom, which is quite fascinating on its own. Forcibly separated from the discipline of academic unfreedom, intellectual freedom itself is unfree and serves the socially performed needs of its clientele. So there is this bizarre paradox here. Like, yeah, it is separated from the restraints of academia, this unfreedom. But again, intellectual freedom itself unfree. It serves the social. It is again yoked to some other idea, and this is the, let's say, the character that the essay has. And by this paradox, he means that it's not like that essay is some kind of an aimless prose wandering on its own, confused and let's say non-defiant. It's not like that, because the intellect is again engaged and provoked. Our intellectual faculties are provoked by the gravity of our circumstances. It's not like that. It has nothing to rely on. So that's a good paradox here he uses. And some matters of responsibility and stuff he touches upon. He goes like, irresponsibility itself, an aspect of the truth that does not exhaust itself in responsibility to the status quo, then justifies itself to the needs of established consciousness. Again, and here is it talks about the matters of responsibility and irresponsibility. So, and the responsibility of the essay, I mean, and, contrarily, it's irresponsibility regarding the phenomena around it. The essay allows for the consciousness of non-identity. It allows for the consciousness of non-identity, without expressing it directly, it is radical in its non-radicalism. That's also a paradox. It is radical in its non-radicalism. In refraining, here's the point to remember. In refraining from any reduction to a principle, in its accentuation of the partial against the total in its fragmentary character. It does not reduce, it is not reducible, or the adjective is irreducible to a principle. You cannot reduce it to some tiny little snippet of school. There is always room for further discussion. There is always room for further, let's say, accentuation of your discussion, let's say, of bringing it even to fore, rather than just focusing on some separate elitist way of thinking. Again, let me single out some of them because it might sound a little boring. I have chosen a few and at the end, I'm gonna I have provided some lines from the essays, written by two of the most auspiciously famous essayists of all time, Francis Bacon and Leigh Hunt. So, wait a second. The essay rebels against the doctrine deeply rooted since Plato that what is transient and ephemeral is unworthy of philosophy. It's again food for thought. It rebels against the doctrine that what is transient, like not long-lasting, and ephemeral is unworthy of philosophy. And by this transient and ephemeral, he refers to the same fact that I talked about some minutes ago, like we take things for granted. We do not take our time focusing, concentrating on everything that happens around us. And like, we never take that time. Like the issues, the concepts, the notions are constantly escaping our zone of let's say, I don't want to call proximity, it would be too linguistic. Our recognition, let's say. The essay retains precisely in the autonomy of its presentation, which distinguishes it from scientific and scholarly, traces of communicative element such information dispenses. And how does this achieve the power of rhetoric? So vicariously, through other means, it vicariously gratifies the listener. Now, how, again, the satisfactions that rhetoric tries to provide for the listener are sublimated into the idea of a happiness in freedom. See, he is constantly reiterating the fact of freedom, this liberty, this non-identity that we talked about, into the idea of a happiness in freedom, vis-a-vis the object, or facing the object of its discussion, of its contemplation. A freedom that gives the object more, and again, this is worthy of notice. A type of freedom, it provides a type of freedom that this object of thought, this object of contemplation, never received when he was being addressed in other discourses. A freedom that gives the object more of what belongs to it than if it were mercilessly, ruthlessly, rigidly incorporated into the order of casual ideas. Again, I like Adorno's description of this freedom. I'm sorry, guys. Do you hear me? If yes, thumbs up. Good. Good to know. The essay cunningly anchors itself. It anchors itself. It relies it anchors itself in texts as though they were simply there and had authority. In this way, the essay gets a ground. Like, again, we mentioned multiple times, it is not some kind of a baseless creation. The essay is not a baseless creation. The essay gets a ground, however dubious and unreliable, under its feet, comparable to the theological exegesis, like some critical interpretations of the Bible, of some biblical scriptures out there in earlier times. But there is a difference. So those theological exegeses were just more informative. They were more conformist, let's say. Their only business or approach was just informing the audience of the semantic ambiguities of the text of the scriptures. Nothing else. It stopped there. But what about the essay? Its tendency is quite the opposite. It works on an opposite ground. It is more critical. It is more critical to shatter, and I love this part, to shatter culture's claims by confronting texts with their own emphatic concept, with the truth that each one intends, and to move culture, and to move mindful, insightful, more meticulous of its own untruth, of the ideological illusion in which culture reveals its bondage, its relationship, its connection to nature. Like, it's here to shatter. It's not here to inform. It's here to give insight. It's here to blur some boundaries. It's here to not classify, but to demystify. That's something I believe.
Yes, thank you so much, Daniel. Because you have a limited time, maybe 15 minutes, we can just get the next slide about the essay. He wants to just show the guys,
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So here I have extracted two pieces, not that long, by Francis Bacon, and also, I mean, I can read them for you, and if I don't know. Oh yeah, here we have the slide here. I didn't have the slides here, Zahra. Now I see they're moving.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I didn't have them here.
Oh my God.
That was okay. Now I see them here. All right. So this piece is taken from an essay called Of Travel. And I just want you to have this fresh firsthand, everyone, I just want you to have this fresh firsthand, unmediated experience of an original essay by an original author, actually. So the topic is obvious. The title is quite not controversial. And here it goes. And let this travel appear rather in his discourse. So he's talking about the benefits, highways and byways of traveling. So here's a part. And let his travel, a young guy he's talking about, appear rather in his discourse than his apparel or gesture. And in his discourse, let him be rather advised in his answers than forward to tell stories. And let it appear that he doth not change his country manners for those of foreign parts, but only prick, means to add or pierce, to prick in some flowers of that he hath learned abroad into the customs of his own country. The power of the essay, the power, and he is both edifying, he is clear, he is compact, and he has almost observed any regulation, his personal regulations, let's say, his personal let's say, rubrics for this piece of writing. And the second one is, I mean, this is quite enjoyable to read, even as an aimless hobby, because some of you might not be interested, but it is even so enjoyable to read as an aimless hobby during the day, during your, let's say, idle hours of a day. So let's go to the next one. Let's go to the last one, the last of our many slides, if it's possible. And yet this one is a bit longer, but please bear with me. It has its beauties and aesthetics as well. So this essay is called A Few Thoughts on Sleeping. Like, it was quite, let's say, thrilling on its own. It was quite awe-inspiring on its own. Sleep never shows himself a greater ever. It must have been ever. I'm sorry for the misspelling. Sleep ever shows himself a greater leveler. A man in his waking moments may look as proud and self-possessed as he pleases. He may walk proudly. He may sit proudly. He may eat his dinner proudly. He may shave himself with an air of infinite superiority. In a word, he may show himself grand and absurd upon the most trifling occasions. But sleep plays the petrifying magician. He arrests the proudest lord as well as the humblest clown in the most ridiculous postures. Like, you see it, anyone who is asleep, he has got a ridiculous gesture when they're asleep. Like, out of this world. You can, I mean, those moments are worthy of capturing and sending them later on about their method of sleeping. So that if you could draw a grandee from his bed, that means a dignitary, someone with a high ranking, let's say, stature. If you could draw a grandee from his bed without waking him, no limb-twisting fool in a pantomime should create wild laughter. The toy with the string between its legs is hardly a posture master more extravagant. Imagine a despot, a king, a ruler, lifted up to the gaze of his valet, his servants, with his eyes shut, his mouth open, his left hand under his right ear, his other twisted and hanging helplessly before him like an idiot's, one knee lifted up and the other leg stretched out, or both knees huddled up together. What a scarecrow to lodge majestic power in. And you can see the political tones in this small piece as well. King, clown, and sleep does not care about your social status. There are moments when the hierarchies are toppled. Even in a Bakhtinian discourse, there is this reversal of hierarchies when everyone is equal and the social equilibrium between king, queen, clown, the poet, the scholar, it is restored. And that is what you can do in a shorter space, but on a grand narrative scale. And thank you all for lending me your precious ears today, this lovely evening. I have reached the bottom of the pit. Sarcastically, I have nothing else to offer now, and I hope I was at least, let's say, informative in the problem and business of the essay today. Thank you so much.
مرسی دانیال عزیز، بسیار جلسه فوق‌العاده بود. من بسیار عذرخواهی می‌کنم امشب چقدر اینترنت من اذیت کرد، واقعا خیلی جالب نبود و بابت سیستمم که کلا به اون صورت تصویر اصلا نمیومد برای من.
That's all right. That's all right. That's okay.
کلا صدای من خوب نداشتید. الان خوبه؟ اوکی.
الان اوکی.
خب.
Loud and clear.
The crystal clear. Thank you so much. و اینکه مرسی از دوستان عزیزی که تا اینجا همراهمون بودن. دانیال عزیز که به یک موضوع بسیار جذابی پرداخت که واقعا کسی بهش نپرداخته بود، خیلی جامع و کامل بود. دو تا از اثر رو هم در آخر داشتیم. قطعاً وایس جلسه رو براتون قرار میدم، انشالله که بتونیم جلسات بیشتر و متعددتری با دانیال جان داشته باشیم بابت موضوعات متفاوت‌تر و حتی راجع به اسه بیشتری هم صحبت کنیم، پارت 2 رو برگزار کنیم. مرسی که دعوتمون رو پذیرفتی و بسیار لذت بردیم.
Once again, thank you so much. It was an honor. It was an honor sharing this
Our
evening with
honor,
you.
actually. Thank you so much. It was really marvelous.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And have a good night. Thank you, guys.
I mean, like, any questions? Any questions? We're open to questions before you leave.
Oh, yes. You know, because the time of the session was 1 hour. It's 1 hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, because of that.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, it's okay. Castro just asked, could you share this slide? Yes, of course. I can share it for you. After the recording session, I just review the PowerPoint. And any question again? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I guess it's time we said, we bid everyone farewell.
Yes, of course. I hope to see you all soon in the next Litchclub. Thank you so much. Have a nice
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful night, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.